Hi, so I know it's been a long time, but I thought I'd try my hand at doing another video. Hopefully this app doesn't give me problems with actually getting it uploaded. But if you're seeing this, then I guess it means that things went well in that regard. So I know we're probably a few, we're ways into 2026. I mean, I'm uploaded like a few days into January, so apologize for coming up with this idea later than maybe some of the people have uploaded their sort of lists like this. But you know what, we're gonna get it done. We're gonna get her out. So, I watched a lot of films last year. I think about over 200. Yeah, I know it's a lot. Might be rookie numbers for like a cinephile, but it's definitely more than I watched in 2024, so I've upped my game. So I decided to narrow down my choices for some of like the top 10 things I saw for the first time this year. Not movies that came out this year, like movies that came out before 2025 that I just hadn't gotten around to seeing yet. So I made this whole like big list of like general favorite watches on my Letterboxd, which of course as always I link my username down in the description of all my videos. And then I took that list and I sort of picked out, okay, which 10 of these films I think were the ones like will stuck out to me the most, the ones I think will have like the largest impact on me. So like if you feel inclined to see what else might have made the list, the movies are, the list is there. You can look at it, it's public. A lot of these films are, they're really good, like all-timer classics, some might say. I try to keep it like roughly in order, but I love them all. I think they're all ranging from like, really good to really, 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 really good. Like I love these. So I'll be going from 10th place to 1st place on the list. Must be sort of going in that order. Alright, so this is one that I actually got to see in a theater because my theater chain did this like month of classic movies and this was playing, so I decided to go see it. That's pretty cool. I think it's interesting. Seeing a movie the first time on the big screen is really cool. It's just like basically about a kid growing up and his relation to his love for movies and specifically like the movie theater and this friendship he has with the projectionist. And I really like movies about movies and I like coming of age movies, and this does both really well. And it reminds me of the importance of the communal experience of seeing a movie in a theater, because with all this streaming stuff nowadays and how it feels like people want to take that away, it's not the same, you get what I'm saying? There's a whole different experience there. Okay, yeah, that became like a little bit of a more personal rant about like my own feelings towards cinema, but I do think the movie does a good job at like sort of reflecting the importance of film in that sort of way. It's a pretty like heartwarming, kind of bittersweet movie in a way. Okay, you know me. I love my experimental films. This is an interesting movie. It's stuck in my head a lot because the way it's filmed is really cool, because there's already this like sort of non-linear narrative going on with the film's like main story, but like sometimes at points like they'll make you aware kind of that like you're watching a film, like they'll like kind of sort of like more meta like angle to it, and then they'll sometimes touch like documentary footage of like the cast being interviewed and they're talking about the film's topics. And this is a queer film that revolves around queer people, so you hear these like insights on gender and sexuality, and it's very interesting because this film goes into the whole gay scene in 1960s Japan, and I feel like how it depicts its queer characters is like basically a lot of the central cast. It's a very human I feel like very kind of like fleshed out, and it's a bit confusing at times, but it's pretty interesting. I think it sticks with you because it's a lot of things. I feel like there's a lot of different tones going on. It's just kind of one of those films that's like that, you know? Yeah, I'm late to this one. I feel like with these kinds of popular movies, like these award winners, it's hard to talk about them because people that are smarter than me have probably said everything I'm gonna say and then some. But this is a really good movie. I like how it plays with your expectations a lot. There's a lot of fun twists, but I also like the commentary on class throughout the film and how it showcases the dichotomy between the rich and poor family. Like, you see the bond the main family has to each other and how they get along, and that humanizes them, and you see the situation they're in, so you understand why they do the things they do. And the rich family is an interesting foil to them, and there's a lot of like deliberate symbolism and metaphors and stuff here, and some really well done sequences. I like how many different tones this movie plays with, and it all works very well. I love films about Hollywood and movie making and like the darker side of that industry, and this is like a classic in that sense. I've seen this like twice now, and I think it's one of my favorites. I like how it hooks your attention with the opening scene. Like, it basically tells you what's going to happen, so you're just wondering throughout the film, how do things get to that point? I find the dialogue in this film to be very clever, very good, like super like witty, a lot of good one-liners in it, especially Gloria Swanson and some of her dialogue and just everything she does in that movie. Her performance is great, very entrancing, especially like in her, just how she moves her face and her expressions and her movements and stuff in scenes, and like how much energy she puts in it. And also it's got one of my favorite ending scenes in a movie, in my opinion. This is another one I saw for the first time in the theater. This one is really good. I say that about all these films because they are good. So many interesting themes to explore in it, like religion and greed and just like the dark nature of humanity. I feel like it's a neat character study because a lot of it revolves around Daniel Day-Lewis's character and his psychology, and his performance is great. Like, people I know have talked about how good it is, rightfully so, but you know, it is not just like some of his bigger monologue scenes, but like even the quieter moments, like that opening prologue that's like pretty much nearly completely devoid of any dialogue. He just does a really good job there, not even saying anything. And Paul Dano does a good job playing a supporting role to him. Like, I think that Daniel Day-Lewis on this whole level with this performance. So to be able to match the energy and play off it in a way is great. I mean, so much of this movie is great. It's very engrossing, even if it's like on the longer side. You don't really feel it because like you're so invested and it's just so well done. A lot of people talk about how beautiful this film is, and like, yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, the cinematography, the lighting of this film, there's so many stunning shots in this movie that you could just probably like hang up and like frame in your house as art. I went this one as more of like a blind watch, so I didn't know much about it. So I loved watching it, you know, from just one of the visual standpoint alone, but the story is also great. Again, it's a lot of these in this list are very character focused, very deliberate, and you're sort of introduced this man that doesn't have that seems like to have a lot of memory of his past, and you're wondering like what led up to this, who is this person, and it becomes this road trip movie of sorts, and it's about like family and in a sense like redemption and like the vastness of like America. Like, this like really shows the landscape But like that sort of part, I think what like really got to me is like the final like 20 minutes of this film. Like as in this like very great sort of character work going on, and it's like very emotional in a sense, and I like how melancholic the movie feels, especially like Harry Dean Stanton, because his performance, he's playing this troubled character you find out is a deeply flawed person, and I find characters that are like deeply flawed to be compelling from that sort of standpoint. People have talked about this movie a lot. Also, yet again, another one I saw in a theater, and I think that was a good way to see it because of how big the scale is. Because space is this big, vast, kind of incomprehensible thing. And I think that lets you get sucked into this movie because it's like when you have to experience it, you gotta trust where it's taking you. I did have a little bit of a. It was a good movie, but like some of my experience watching the theater for the reason like the crowd I was with didn't really die with it, and I think it's like the film's pacing. I think some people, especially nowadays with our teeny tiny attention spans, just don't really do slower paced movies, and like this is, I assume, like probably doesn't really crack like even the surface level of slow cinema or something. I don't. There's probably like slower moving films out there, so like it is weird that I got that sort of reaction. But I don't think having a more negative experience in a theater seeing a movie should detract from the actual film itself. And this is maybe one of the best looking movies of its time. Like, it's crazy that they made it in the late 60s. It's so beautiful to look at. It feels like very sleek in its like set designs, very sterile feeling to stuff like the spaceship. And I love how like a lot of the shots are framed. It's a very striking kind of like very symmetrical, very good at drawing your eye towards certain things, and with like how little dialogue there is, and you can just like focus on the visuals and the ambiance, like the ambient sound of it all, and even the plot itself, like you can, the little bits that they get from that, it's very interesting, like all the stuff with the how it's iconic for good reason. It's just like, especially as you get close to the end of the film, it's some really, really good scenes. A lot of people have probably gone into this movie like more in depth than I came from this like more of a first impression type review. So I'll just like say, yeah, this is a classic. I'm a sucker for a good single location film. Like you put a lot or all of the action in one location, and that makes for a great movie a lot of the time. I mean, Cindy Lumet, who directed this, she also did Following Green Man. That's like one of my favorite movies in the like type of category, subgenre, or whatever film. Anyways, this is like one of my favorite sort of new Hollywood films. Yeah, I think this one is considered an important one in that movement. I just love how real a lot of those films, especially this one, feel like in their themes and their filming and the people, like the people they cast, they would be like they feel like real believable actual people that you would see in that time period, in that place, and all that stuff. I think it's probably why the decision to not have there be any music aside from the opening scene, the opening montage of sorts, is so good because it immerses you in the action. I think it makes you feel like you're sort of there witnessing all this. And this was like very high energy, and I think a lot of that is owed to Al Pacino and his incredible performance. It's he's like very neurotic, very sweaty, love take you to a lot of places emotionally with how he plays it. It just pretty much like it's a captivating performance. It's like grabs your attention, and even though it's like a really tense film, there's these comedic sorts of moments near the beginning, but it's also great as like the film gets more dramatic as it goes on. It's kind of one of those that ends up saying a lot about society. Like there's commentary on the nature of like the media and how it sensationalizes things, and I feel like it also sort of like touches on queer issues in an interesting way, and like I feel like it has a lot to say about humanity. It's just a very good film, really good film. Now this is a movie I'd been wanting to watch this one for like a hot minute beforehand, and I just for some reason never got around to it. So I decided back when Criterion did one of their sales, like back beginning of 2025, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and buy it. You know, it was worth every penny. This movie has so many things that I like in a film. It's about like being about Hollywood, about dreams. Like to me, it's definitely about dreams in all sorts of ways, like, especially dreams in the aspirational sense, like the dreams we have for ourselves and what happens when it's contrasted with the much darker reality of things, and like, you know, identity and the personas we put on, or that people will put on us, and all sorts of things. I mean, like, I don't think I understand all of it, even after seeing it as many times as I have seen it already, but I don't think understanding it is the point. Like, that's the beauty of art to me, is that you take away from a film whatever you want. And sometimes it's more about the experience and how you feel than being able to see the film as something that needs to be answered. Like, you know, because not all films are like puzzles that have to be solved. Like, sometimes, like, that's not the point. You know? This film feels simultaneously dreamlike and beautiful, but also nightmarish and eerie. Like, even in the beginning, there's this sense of dread, this weird feeling that hangs over a lot of the scenes. You know, there's so many scenes in this movie where I'm just like, oh, this is some of the best stuff I've seen in a movie. Like, so many just gold moments. And I haven't even brought up the performances of Naomi Watts and Laura Harring as the two leads. Yeah, I mean, they're great. Especially Naomi Watts. She's maybe one of my favorite like performances of all time. Like, there's this shift in how she plays things at one point, and especially as the film goes on, and it's wonderful, kind of devastating stuff. This ends up like being kind of like a pretty tragic movie in a sense. It's very like emotionally moving in a lot of ways. It like sort of makes you feel a lot of things. Like there's some kind of funny moments, a lot of like creepy sort of, you know, that kind of fear that gets crawls under your skin in a sort of way, like feeling of wrongness. Again, I like how that film sort of depicts it. There's like these really emotionally resonant moments. It's like this whole journey you're taken on throughout this film is just amazing. I think it's like one of the best, like this type of like film, you know, like one of the best films about Hollywood. Again, one of like the best like surreal films. Like whenever I finish watching it, like I'm just like kind of big shaken by it, but like in a complimentary way. Like it makes me feel kind of like bad, but I like it because of that. Yeah, this is it. This is the big one. I don't know how I'm gonna condense this down into like one part of this probably already pretty big video, because there's just so much I have to say about this film, but let's be for real, nobody wants to hear all that. So I'll try to talk about that to the best of my ability, like condense it down. I went into this one nearly completely blind, knowing that it was X-rated at one point, and was set in New York City with these two guys going and getting up to stuff. It somehow was and wasn't what I was expecting. Like, if you were to ask me what were you expecting, I'd be like, it was kind of that, but also not. You know what I'm saying? I don't think I expected it to like go as dark as it does. And I also was expecting it to be so much of a character study. This is a very character-focused film. Again, running sort of through line through a lot of these films that they're sort of about the characters and like how they deal with things. And I just love everything about it. To speedrun some of it really quickly. I love the soundtrack, especially that like Nilsson song they play throughout the movie. It's like sort of like motif for the main character, and like the John Barry with the harmonica theme, but also, you know, serves as like a reoccurring musical piece. But even every other little piece of music in the film, from the other parts of the actual like instrumental score to some of the other films, some of the other songs that are included in the soundtrack, I really like all of those. The editing, I love how this film does its editing, because it like focuses a lot on like characters' memories sort of going, like bleeding into like the present. Like you see the past intruding upon the present and like how that informs things. You see characters imagine how things might be, or like how things might have been, like these idealized sort of fantasies, and like just how it played that is like very interesting. It's like one of the most like clever ways I think I've seen like flashbacks, or like that these sort of like inclusion of a backstory done in a film, especially when it sort of veers into this like sort of like surrealist nightmare kind of territory. But there's also some other really cool editing decisions they make in this film, because like you'll get some scenes where like they'll have like characters will be having a conversation, or they'll be talking, and you'll hear it'll cut to the next scene, but you still hear the conversation, the audio of it playing over the next song. Is like really cool. And sometimes they'll like sort of be playing a scene but also interperse and like another scene. Like they'll sort of show you things kind of like before they happen, in a sense. There's a specific scene near the end that sort of does that. That's like kind of hard to describe, but I like what it does in that sort of part. But the editing definitely drew me in the first time I saw it, because I was like, there's so many cool sequences in this film, in just like how they're edited, and the acting, the costume design, I think, is really important. I'd say sometimes, you know, integral to the plot and the characters of this film. The cinematography, that whole gritty New York setting, like something, you know, how dirty and nasty parts of this film look, but like also there's like something kind of like wildly beautiful, like looking like nighttime scenery, sort of urban, you know, type neon light, that sort of whole vibe. And you know, the new Hollywood of it all, I love. I think I just like kind of really do genuinely love that movement. I want to get into it more deeper this year. And like a lot of the themes about like, you know, again, like not to like mention this again, but like identity and like the false personas we put on, you know, that we have for ourselves, but also like how other people view us based on things, and like the trauma, the effects of like how that affects people, sexuality, masculinity, human connection, advertising, like the commodification of things, especially like the commodification of people's bodies. I mean, that's like not even all of the stuff that I going on in this film. Like, there's so much going on in this. I feel like it goes to some really dark places, even from like even like, you know, the main character's Barks really takes the other there. It's incredibly, I think, to me, disturbing because of like the subject matter it deals with, personally. You know, that does like it is hard to watch. But it's such an interesting movie that I've revisited it a frankly embarrassing amount of times. But I always find something new whenever I rewatch it, and I don't know what that says about me. I think as ultimately as messed up as this film is and ends up being, it kind of has this oddly kind of like sweet message about human connection and how beneficial a genuine connection with someone can be. Like, yeah, a lot of it is bleak and stuff, like pretty much a good portion of this film was bleak. There's like only a little bit of moments of levity, and they're always like something will always like happen to make you just be like, oh god. But I feel like that element, that sort of human part of the film, is an important part of it. I mean, the dynamic between these guys and how the performances work off each other, and like seeing how they go through things together, I love it. I mean, I'm repeating myself a lot here, but I really do love it. I'd go more in depth if I could on everything, but then we'd be here for hours. But yeah, I think it's these two characters that keep me drawn to this movie and like how they're portrayed, especially Kaufman and his performance, especially like in the third act. It's just like, wow, ouch, but like, wow. There's some things that he just does with his facial expressions, and some scenes that make me feel really sad. Yeah, but that's it. And even though this movie focuses mainly on these two characters, I think the supporting cast is also interesting. Like, you got Sylvia Miles and Brenda Vaccaro playing two of the more significant women this guy meets during his whole arc. And their individual scenes, Vaccaro's especially, like, her scenes are great to watch. But then you also got, like, John McGiver, Bernard Hughes, a very young Bob Balaban, and all sorts of people playing these strange sort of characters that you sort of meet popping in at points throughout the film. And oh yeah, some of the Warhol superstars making brief cameos in a scene that, despite knowing a good bit of people might consider it unnecessary or stuff like that, is one of my favorite scenes in the film. Again, I could go in depth for my reasoning, but this part's already dragged on for too long, and no one clicked this video to hear me talk about this movie in depth, probably, but I do have things to say. This is just me being more restrained. Anyways, great movie, even if the ending sort of crushes me. I love it, and I hate what it does to me. So, anyways, yeah, those were 10 films I watched the first time in 2025 and loved. I am looking forward to watching more films in this year, 2026. Will I break my record of what I watched in 2025? I don't know. Will I find more films that I will love so much that they immediately go into my top 10, top 4 of all time list? I don't know. Let's just hope that good things come our way. I'll definitely try to find out ideas for like future videos. I want to start like uploading more consistently. So we'll see how that all shakes out. So anyways, bye bye.